of reps in practice.
Exactly.
So I think that also does really help him.
Yeah, and
being young.
I think something that might be interesting to watch this year is, like I said, typically Gundy hasn't played a lot of freshmen, even when you have the opportunity, even when you have big leads. But say coronavirus does hit, a couple of receivers get hit, you're going to have to throw someone like Presley in the game. But you can't just throw someone in, right?
Right.
You have to give them valuable reps and snaps early on in the season, which is why I think you'll see a lot of different freshmen, including Presley, make an impact.
Yeah, I think they're going to use Presley a lot like they used Jalen McCluskey.
Sure.
When he was a true freshman. They used him mostly on punt returns.
Right.
Occasionally he would get in the game. Of course, that was back in the day when you couldn't play 4 games
Right.
and still maintain your red shirt eligibility. So, but I'm excited about Presley, especially in the return game. They say he's like one of the fastest players to come through OSU.
Right.
Yeah.
So
he's
a
fast.
guy for me to watch is Jelani Woods.
Right.
So in the past, Oklahoma State hasn't been real tight end heavy, but of course we call them cowboy backs
Right.
here.
Yeah.
But apparently under Casey Dunn, Logan Carter, who is the one of the cowboy backs, has said that they're really going to utilize cowboy backs in this new offense under Casey Dunn. Sudeep, what have you heard about Jelani Woods? We all know that he's a supreme athlete.
Right.
So do you think that he could be possibly a red zone guy for the Cowboys?
Yeah, he's a big guy, 6'7". I forget exactly how big, but
Yeah.
he's got the size of Gronk, the speed, the athleticism. And last year, people a lot of the times will look at stat sheet and say, oh, the tight ends didn't make an impact. But they were out there blocking on a lot of different – they were used all over the field. A cowboy back means an H-back, essentially, where you use them all over the field, in line, in the backfield, out wide. And I think the interesting thing now is how Casey Dunn will use, which is kind of something we don't know yet because Casey Dunn is a wide receivers guy. And he obviously knows all his wide receivers inside and out. But it'll be interesting to see how he uses the tight ends. But I think he will have an impact. But the one thing to keep in mind is people always point, hey, we had Blake Jarwin, right? OSU had Blake Jarwin. But Blake Jarwin never topped 300-something yards. That's something that might just be the stat, but he will have an impact.
So last thing here on the offense is Spencer Sanders.
Right.
So, of course, OSU got a new coach in the offseason, Tim Rattay, as a quarterback's coach. And, I mean, reports so far is that he has really helped Spencer Sanders in terms of turnovers, pocket stability, and just being an overall leader. Last year, Spencer had his moments, but he definitely struggled. Do you think this year the key to Oklahoma State's success, I mean, we all know that it's under center.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's the big key because last year you saw Sanders. He has crazy arm strength. Obviously, he's explosive as a runner. The one thing that you kind of saw him was, 1 was turnovers, 2 was pocket presence, right? And he talked all about – the one thing he's talked about since spring is depth in the pocket and improving that. And if you get that, then you get a guy who is elite as a runner and is going to be only better as a passer with a lot of weapons and potentially the best running back in the country next to him. And, coming out of high school, you see this a lot with the running quarterbacks who are just able to run out of everything in high school, especially 4-star, 5-star guys. Spencer Sanders is obviously a running quarterback coming out, but he's got great arm strength. Learning to adjust to the game takes some time. And given this year, and given Tim Rattay, who's focused on pocket presence, is going to help.
Absolutely. So Spencer Sanders improved, including Chuba Hubbard, Heisman candidate, and Tylan Wallace, a Bulletnikoff guy. And we don't even talk about them. All right. When we come back, we're going to stick with Sudeep, and we're going to be talking about the defense. Stick with us.
Oh, there you go. Superstar.
The end of the practice is when we do all of our, intensity drills.
Okay.
She was going at it.
Stop. If we get them to Detroit
guys.
by, let's say, Monday the 15th. Time's right there. There we go. Yeah. Just, you can't.
Don't want to talk about it.
When you see the water tower, you're gonna make a right.
If we win this, is the one way to get to the playoffs.
I know.
I mean,
All right, welcome back to Behind the Line. I'm Parker Terrell here with Alex Dusky and Sudeep Tumma of the O'Colly. Alex, we're talking about defense now. We just got done talking about players to watch on offense for this upcoming season. Who are some of the guys that you're excited to see this upcoming season?
I think definitely Trace Ford. He is a sophomore that did have a standout year last year for his freshman year, and now he's looking up to back up. But, just like to prove himself again, that it wasn't a fluke. So what do you think about Trace Ford? People are kind of predicting that he might be one of the best players on OSU's defense this year.
I love Trace Ford. I'll tell you straight up. That's the big thing as a freshman, Like we just talked about Brendan Presley. Trace Ford is a freshman who played a lot of snaps. He came in as a defensive end / linebacker, but he's legitimately played both. And I talk about Trace Ford all the time and his impact. He's a great pass rusher. He is so athletic, so strong. I think 6'4", 240. He's what they call Leo, right? OSU plays a 4-2-5 with 4 defensive ends, 2 linebackers, but you have the versatility because you have a guy like Trace Ford who can play in your defensive line, step back, play linebacker, even go in the slot corner. He can cover, he can stop the run, he can go everywhere, and he's very athletic, gives you a lot of versatility, and he's a perfect piece for this defense, and I think he's ready to have a breakout season.
For sure.
To me, Sudeep, the strength of this defense really is in the linebacking core with the 2 seniors, Malcolm Rodriguez and Amen Agban-Bamiga. So, Sudeep, do you agree with me there, or what do you think is the strength of this defense?
No doubt. I mean, there's a great case to be made there, and the only reason I might rip that down is because the safeties are equally strong. You got 2 guys in Colby Harville-Peel and Trey Sterling. Harville-Peel is center fielding ball hawk back there. He had 5 interceptions last year. He's a stud in coverage, and he's a hard hitter when he comes down and stops the run, play in the box, wherever. Trey Sterling's all over the field, in the box, the slot corner, up high. He is everywhere. He's another excellent talent. But linebackers should not be overstated. Despite being a converted safety, Malcolm Rodriguez can shed blocks and get through gaps, unlike anyone I've ever seen at that size. Amen is very athletic. He can do everything. And you got 2 linebackers who you can throw in coverage, again, stop the run, pass rush. Amen actually led them in sacks last year.
Not to mention their backups are Devin Harper and Calvin Bundage, a former starter. So I think there's a lot of depth in this defense. That's something that Gundy and Jim Knowles have talked about in the offseason is how much depth that this defense has, how many returning starters. There's 10 of 11 returning starters. The only guy that's not back is A.J. Green, a cornerback.
But then to fill that position, you have Christian Holmes, the grad transfer from Mizzou, who's outstanding.
And you might not even feel a difference because of that. Jarek Bernard's also dropping on a corner. I'm curious if they've ran 3 safeties last year. I'm curious if they're going to put those 2 and have Jarek Bernard, Christian Holmes, and Rodarius all on the field. Because Jarek Bernard can play up high, down low, another safety with versatility. I wonder how they're going to run that. But, yeah, I think you touched on the depth. It shouldn't be overstated. Devin Harper is like having a 3rd starting linebacker. Calvin Bundage probably won't, I'm assuming, will not come back to the same form he was before. Yeah. And the capacity in which Jim Knowles talked about him was as a pass rusher. Yeah. So if you just have Calvin Bundage as a situational pass rusher, just doing that as a 4th linebacker, that gives you such depth, such versatility.
So, Sudeep, over this week I heard someone say on the radio, Bill Haston actually of the Tulsa World, kind of shifting a bit here, that this season doesn't really matter. It's just a contractual obligation, were his actual words. What are your thoughts on that statement, and do you think that this season does mean a lot for the players, for the coaches, and for the conference?
Yeah, I always go back to what I think it was Gary Patterson, head coach at TCU, said. He said, we shouldn't be concerned with wins and losses. We should just be happy we have a football season.
Exactly.
And whether you agree with that sentiment or not, it does speak volumes, and it does put everything in perspective. But I think, does it matter? That's a question for fans, for committees, for everyone. The players are going to be playing it just as hard. Of course, the coaches are going to be doing just as much as they can. But obviously, there may be an asterisk. There may not be. There's something in the records book years later.
Yeah, to me, I think, and Alex, we'll get into this in the next segment, but to me, I think that it is really a contractual obligation. Of course, the players are going to play hard. Right. They love this school. They love their coach, and they want to make their families proud, and they want to make it to the next level. Sure. But this is so other programs can thrive in the future. Except so much revenue for the athletic department. And so...
And they announced today that the athletic department is making cuts for salaries.
Yeah,
so,
right. So that's just one of the effects of this pandemic in terms of like budget cuts overall. But without football, it would be I mean, it would be so tough for the entire time. All right, Sudeep, thank you so much.
Yes,
You
thank you.
can follow you on Twitter and follow the Ocali on Twitter to get more updates from the print side of things. We thank you so much for coming on. When we come back, Alex and I are going to make our predictions for the Tulsa game. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to Behind the Line for our final segment. Alex, prediction time. What do you think is going to happen in this game coming up against Tulsa? Not this week, but next week. Yeah.
So definitely, not to hate on Tulsa, but they are going to struggle a little bit just because they had a big loss of their wide receiver Keenan Johnson, and they do have their quarterback Zach Smith coming back, so that is something to note. But I don't think that they're going to be any match for our defense. We just spent time with Sudeep talking about just how experienced our defense is and how the depth of OSU across the board on both sides of the ball is pretty astounding this year. And this year more than ever is so important because of, with coronavirus, you don't know. Who knows? We could be on like our third string receivers, which would be unfortunate. But, they're all pretty experienced, or everyone's ready to play ball. And so I'm going to go big. I think OSU is going to win 42-3. I think that we'll be able to see a lot of second stringers getting more playing time because like you said, they're not going to have that bye week after playing the Tulsa game, just so that like Chuba and Tylen don't get too exhausted with their first game back.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of along those lines too. I think that it's going to be a big win. Tulsa is coming off of a pretty decent year last year, but they lost.
They were 4-8. So
yeah, okay. For Tulsa, that's
right.
a little bit lower than expectations, but I mean, honestly, I don't think that they're that much better this year. I think that they're going to have a tough season, and especially if they're going to struggle in this game. I have it being like 52-10 along those lines, maybe 52-14. I'll give them 2 touchdowns, but I think Oklahoma State really, to me, this is a game where you see how ready they are.
Yeah. Because
you don't get that bye week now. You don't get a chance to reassess and regroup after a game. I mean, they're going right into the next one. So this is a chance for the starting defense to step up and show that they are that united group of experienced guys to really stop this Tulsa offense that, as you said, is missing their best receiver. I mean, they're going to struggle. Also,
Tulsa's starting from scratch on defense. Yeah. Basically, every guy's gone.
Yeah.
So that's also, I'm thinking that OSU is going to really run up the score.
I expect Chuba to really do well in this game. I think that he is a guy that's just going to run roughshod all over this Tulsa defense that's been rebuilt from the ground up, as you just said. But also, I think this is a chance for Sanders to show off how much he has learned from Tim Rattay. This is a chance for him to all I'm looking for is no turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can come out of this game with no turnovers, a couple touchdowns, I feel like that's a huge improvement over what we saw early in the season last year.
We don't want to, hate on Tulsa too much, but I think this game is definitely going to really speak to, is OSU going to live up to the team that we've been hearing about since March? Will Chuba, Tylen, and Spencer be that, holy trinity of the three players on offense? And will the defense be the best in the Big 12 this year? And, people have been saying, like, oh my gosh, OSU's defense is going to, give the SEC a run for their money, which, that's kind of far out there, but it'll be interesting to see. This is definitely a game where we're going to be able to predict more down the line for the season.
So I think a lot of people are kind of counting OSU out this season. I've seen a lot of predictions, a lot of models saying that OSU is going to finish like 3rd or 4th in the conference. They have OU, of course, being number 1, Texas 2, and a lot of people are putting Iowa State 3 instead of OSU. Honestly, Alex, this is one of the most talented and experienced OSU teams in a long, long time. And it's sad that this season is different and shortened because of coronavirus, but it is what it is. We're pressing on.
And it was like what you were saying with the contractual contractual obligation.
Yeah.
That's the word. I don't think OSU is like that this year. I think this is really a year for OSU, especially like with all the murmurs about OSU, no matter what, if it was sports or news related the past 5 months, OSU's been in the news a lot, and so it'd be great for them to be in the news for oh my gosh, their football team's outstanding. And I think, with Chuba returning, something that he said yesterday to the media was that he didn't come back to break more records for himself. He didn't come back to win that Heisman. He came to win a championship for his team with his team. And so that's something that, to hear that from, the most talented guy on the team is kind of comforting to know that, all right, team's ready to go into this season and win something.
I mean, that's an excellent quote by him, and that tells me that they are locked in this season. Hopefully that translates to on-the-field wins. I mean, it's the elephant in the room, but we've got to beat OU. Like, Oklahoma State has to beat Oklahoma this season if they want to achieve those lofty goals that Chuba talks about, that Sanders talks about, that everyone has been talking about since the beginning of the spring, of course, before it got canceled. This OSU team feels different. Of course, I was only 11 years old the last time that Oklahoma State had this much hype around a team. But I just remember, what little I remember is that they just were different. The preseason ESPN pundits kind of counted them out that year. They did it this year. Big 12 pundits counted them out, and that's what they're doing this year. So, as I said, this is an experienced team. This is a talented team with one of the best players in the country in Chuba Hubbard. All right, that's all for today. Stick with us, though, on Behind the Line. Every Wednesday at 2:45, we're on Suddenlink, Channel 112, Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and YouTube. We'll be back next week, Alex. Thanks for sticking here with us in Stillwater.
Hi, I'm Will Joyce, the Mayor of Stillwater. As Mayor, it's my responsibility to help develop plans for a variety of resident needs, including roads, emergency services, and utilities. Some of those services are paid for with federal money that the government distributes to states and communities based on Census Bureau data. This is your tax money coming back to our community, but if you or your household aren't counted, we lose nearly $1,200 per person to places like Texas, Kansas, and Arkansas. So help bring that money back to local communities by filling out the 2020 census. This year, it's easy to do. You'll receive a postcard in March 2020 with a unique code for your address. Using that code, simply go online, call, or request a paper copy of the census and fill it out. I want to make sure that you and your whole household are counted in the 2020 census. It's important not just to Stillwater, but to all of Payne County.